Okay, let's take a look at our next project. In this project, we're dealing with a list of bestsellers. And what we have to do is read a file of bestsellers, make a big list of those books, and then we search through it. So, like, let's look at our authors, or find by title. Find a title in there. All right, that's what we'll look at. So we're going to read a file of bestsellers. We're going to make a big list of those books, and then we're going to have a function which will find the title. There's a bunch of other functions we have to do, but actually, once you've done one, you can do the others. Now, what I'm going to show you here today is, imagine that we've planned this out. Okay, I'm going to read the file, create a list, and find a title, and so on. So how might I go about developing a piece of code like that? Well, I always start with opening the file. My file name might be slightly different than yours, just because I was creating that. And then let's read through part of this file. Again, my file, I think, is in a slightly different order. That doesn't really matter here. I'm just going to read through some of the beginning of this file, just to make sure that I can actually do it. So I've set up this loop, so I just will read read and print the first 10 things in the file. Okay, so we see I've got some, we can see how this file is arranged. We have a title, we have an author, we have a publisher, we have a date, and whether it's fiction or nonfiction, which is in fact something that we don't use in this assignment. But that's what the file looks like. Okay, so now I know I can actually open this file. To keep working with this, play around with it, let's close it. Now, what's the first thing I might do? Well, we're dealing with lists, so let's make a list. So we'll open the file again. I'll call it my all list. And what do we do with lists? Well, we start with an empty list and keep appending things onto it. So for line file, and since we're dealing with lists, let's make a list out of each line so that they'll be a little better to deal with by stripping. And if you read the handout, it does say that it is tab separated file. So what do? We take all these and we, oops, I forgot to do something here. I don't want to do all of them. Again, let's just do a few of them. Okay, there we go. So we want to take my list and append each of these new lists on there. And I'm still going to have my count, so I only do 10 of these. Of course, nothing prints. I can take a look at my list. Okay, so there's a list of things, a little hard to read. Actually, these are books, so let's call them books. For book in my all list, we'll print the book. And now we can see, okay, I have created a list of lists, and we can see that it's a list of lists. When I looked at the whole list, you can see double square brackets. And so there's a list right there of the first book, and you can see this, the next book starting there. So when I iterate through the list, printing out each book, we see each one coming out here as a list. Okay, so now I've created a list, and I have a list. Okay, what might I do with it? Well, we have a bunch of different functions: search by year, search by author, search by title. They're actually all quite similar in terms of functions. Let's take the let's take the search by title, because I actually have something here I can search for. I notice that I have the word private and the word private in two books, even out of these few books that I have here. So what would it be like to search through that? Well, I don't have to open my file again. I've got my list. Let's play around with that. So what are we going to do? So let's say, let's go back to my, walking through my list one book at a time. So if the word private is in the book, okay, that would be the first field in there, so that's field 0. Let's print the book. Let's try that out. All right, and I see that, so out of my 10 or 11 books that I have here, I went through and I said, give me the ones whose, where private is in the title. All right, well, that's, we seem to be working okay there, but I do have to make it a function, so search by title, and we're going to search a list, and what do we have to do? We have to, let's call it T equals input. Obviously we need to, we'll need to make this fancier, but I get some, ask for a title, and now for books in my list, if T is in my title, what will I do? I'll print my book. So now I have this function, and I can say, I can try it out, search by title, and my list is called all list. All right, I'll come up, say, give me a title, private, and it prints the things in, prints the books that have private in the title. Now, obviously, there's a lot of things I have more to do here, but notice how I've there's a lot that I've left out here. I would type in a few lines of code, try something out. The printing here is pretty ugly. I'm printing out the whole list. It still has the square brackets, and my simple little thing here won't be able to handle lowercase, private, a whole variety of things that need to be worked on. But notice how I now have pretty much one of the functions written. I collected the stuff into a list. I've got one of the functions written. A lot of little details to be worked out, but I have the basic start of this project.